Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Chicago Bears beat reporter Michael Dwojak here with the Northwest Herald's Joe Aguilar as we are joining you guys on Friday morning. It's a blustery morning. It's pretty bad. It's perfect weather, I guess, if you're a California team coming into the area over the weekend. But we'll get you all set for a big Sunday night game between the Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Rams at Soldier Field in the NFC divisional round. Joe, it's felt like it's been a week. I feel like there's been a lot of hype this week. Everyone's excited. It's obviously a reason why we've always said that, it's fun when the Bears are around because, obviously there's Cubs and Sox. Not everyone's a Cubs fan. Not everyone's a Sox fan. Bulls, Blackhawks, that kind of stuff. Like I feel like all those fan bases have their niche fan bases, but everyone's a Bears fan, it seems like, in the Chicago area, at least. And it really feels like it just kind of reinvigorates the area. And I feel like you've kind of seen that in the city this week and in the suburbs as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when outsiders ask, is it a Cubs town? Is it a Bulls? It's a Bears town. Chicago is a Bears town, first and foremost. Cubs, Sox fans kind of split. I know White Sox fans don't like to hear this, but it's more of a Cubs town, right? And then the Blackhawks.
Watch it there, Joe. I know it's true, but you don't have to throw the salt in the wound like that.
And the Bulls stink. Blackhawks still stink. Year 10 of the rebuild. But no, it is. It's a reminder how fun this can be when, like you said, when the Bears are relevant in this city. And this has been a great week, especially coming off the team, a playoff game against your arch rival. So it's really been fun. And while a lot of people probably don't expect the season to continue after Sunday, it'd be fun because it'd just be fun to ride this out as long as we can.
That's the word, right? Relevant. Like you just want to be relevant. And that's what you haven't seen from this organization over the past, 15 years at this point, since that 2010, I guess since Lovey. Obviously there have been blimps here and there and that kind of stuff, but it just hasn't been relevant, right? And you see all these people who maybe aren't diehard Bears fans, but are kind of like, oh, what's happening? Who's this? Like, who's Colston Loveland? And it's been a lot of fun just to kind of get everyone back into it. So we'll get you all started. I see the chat is bopping on YouTube. Thank you so much already to everyone who's joining us on YouTube. Make sure you get all your questions and your comments in there. If you're on Facebook, give us a like there as well. You can also send us a question or a comment in the Facebook chat, so make sure you do that if you have anything you want us to answer. And as always, if you're listening to us on the podcast, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe and rate us there. Really looking forward to talking about this and talking about a big game between the Bears and the Rams. So, Joe, like we like to do every week, we like to start off with the injury report, any major, news that kind of came out of Halas Hall over the past week. Nothing major came out of Halas Hall this week. I mean, if you want to, we're not going to continue the whole Ben Johnson Packers thing. I am so done with that conversation at this point. I don't know why we're still talking about it. It's a conversation. It'll be an off-season conversation, I'm sure. I'll go to the combine. I'm sure it'll be a conversation, so we can address it there. But let's talk about this game. The Bears actually are relatively healthy. Obviously, they lose Ozzie Trapillo and they lose TJ Edwards for the rest of the playoff run after they both sustained season-ending injuries. Obviously, that's going to be a big concern. I would assume that Theo Benedict is going to get the start at left tackle. He had 8 starts this year. And Joe, it feels like, obviously they didn't want it to go this way, but obviously with the whole competition that they had at the left tackle spot, Braxton Jones was activated off IR. He's going to be the backup left tackle, I would imagine. But, Theo Benedict has 8 starts under his belt. Braxton Jones obviously has played 2 years. Obviously you got to get some experience and all that kind of stuff. But after that left tackle competition, it seems like the Bears might actually be in a pretty decent spot because they've got experience at that left tackle spot, even though they're starters down here.
Yeah, and now it's like you've got 3 left tackles. What? Not saying that any of them are Pro Bowl caliber, but knowing that, Theo certainly looks serviceable at worst. And then Braxton, with all the experience coming in, I thought even if he would have played the whole year at left tackle, Braxton Jones, as Eddie done in the last 2-3 years, I thought they would have been fine. No one expected to see the continuity and the effectiveness of this offensive line. So it's, again, I think it's been the story of this Bears team. Maybe, we've talked so much about Ben and Caleb, and rightfully so, but this offensive line, it's just been amazing. The fact that the three interior guys didn't miss a game, and Darnell Wright, how about him making second team All Pro, by the way, last week? I don't think we had a chance to talk about that, but good for him. That stuff does matter on guys' resumes, and it just shows you the strides he made this year, which was really big coming into the season, because you kind of almost didn't know, like, how good is this guy going to be ever? So that was really good. So anyway, but the left tackle position, to your point, yeah, it's nice that you have depth, and we've seen that really at every position pretty much this whole season, which is, again, another sign of a well-run football team. Did I say that out loud? Or well-run, the Bears, a well-run football team? But that's kind of been the case, right?
Yeah, and well, obviously, we'll talk more about in the offseason. Is Theo your backup left tackle? Do you go after someone, obviously, with the whole – we don't know the timeline of Ozzie Trapillo's injury right now, but I would imagine, based on my loose Wikipedia, chat GPT availability, that it'll take a while for him to kind of get back here. So that might be something that they want to address during the offseason, but we'll worry about that in the offseason. TJ Edwards also is going to obviously not be playing. I would imagine that DeMarco Jackson is going to get the start there. He did obviously he's got that blemish of starting the Green Bay game, the second one at Soldier Field, with just a silly penalty jumping on top of the huddle. Obviously that wasn't great, but other than that, I thought DeMarco actually did a pretty good job. Now we'll talk more about in our matchups, how much are the Bears actually going to be in base defense? How much are they actually going to be? Are we going to see a lot of dime here and that kind of stuff? But when DeMarco Jackson is going to be in there, I think he's kind of shown you in key situations that he can be a serviceable player.
Yeah, I mean, he was the NFC Defensive Player of the Week that after he got that rare start, he had the double digit. That's when he had the sack and maybe the interception to that game. I forgot who that was against now, but in any event, he's proved capable. I just think, this whole defense, whether you were healthy or not, was going to have its hands full. And certainly it helps being pretty much as healthy as you can almost hope for at this time of the season, right? Because everyone's banged up. And the fact that you got DJ Gardner-Johnson back, I didn't know if that was going to happen. So it looks like he's good to go, right? He's practiced the last couple days. So that's a huge lift, because you're going to need everybody. You're going to need everybody, and you're going to need some guy or some guys, plural, to make momentum-changing plays, because this is the best offense in the National Football League. They do not have a weak spot. And if we think we've seen the Bears being riddled by other teams this season, going up and down the field, look out. And we'll get to it. But and I know the weather thing has been, I think the biggest conversations this week on social media, anyway, Michael, have been the F the Packers line by Ben Johnson and the weather with the game coming Sunday. But it does matter, and maybe that's the equalizer that the Bears need to slow down at least a little bit this Rams offense.
Yeah, we'll get into it in our matchups, but this will be the first game that the Bears actually have every single starter in their secondary for the first time this season, which is an insane thing, because heading into the year, you're like, man, that secondary is stacked. Like, that group is going to do so much, and everyone that's obviously Kyler Gordon has kind of taken the lead, and obviously missing a bunch of time, but Jalen Johnson was out. Tyreek Stevenson missed some time. CJ Gardner-Johnson you added, and then he kind of missed some time. So it'll be really fun to see what does Dennis Allen do here? How much time are we going to see? So we'll obviously get into that. DJ Moore has been limited with the knee injury. Rome Odunze's been limited with the foot injury. I don't think those are of concern. They've been DJ's been dealing with that with the knee for the last couple of weeks, and has been dealing with injuries for this whole season, and still has played, I think, every single game. So I wouldn't imagine that that's a concern. Rome said yesterday that the foot is the foot. Obviously he's not going to be 100% this year, but he's going to give his 100%. So Yeah, the Bears are relatively healthy, and it looks like the Rams are relatively healthy here as well. Obviously, Matthew Stafford has that. I think it's a sprain in his throwing hand, the finger. But Rams don't seem concerned about that at all. We'll obviously see how they're going to wrap that thing up a little bit, especially in the cold. Like I don't think it hurts now in 80-degree weather, but I wonder if you accidentally, like, I don't think the Bears should, try to go break his fingers or anything like that. But things happen in the NFL. Sometimes you land, sometimes your follow through lands on your offensive lineman or something like that. It'll be really interesting to see how that feels in 10-degree weather a couple times.
Yeah, right. I mean, you said it perfectly there. I mean, look, I know personally, just having a bad left knee, lots of surgeries, that when it gets cold like this, it gets damp, it hurts a little more. And anyone like or weekend athlete, that doesn't help. So, and maybe it just gets tinged. I don't know, but it's but he's been through the wars. He's been through a lot, pretty much everything in his 17 years in this league. But if that slows him down just a little bit, 1/10 of a percentage point, we'll take it, because he's the goods across the board. He pretty much checks every box.
Robert bringing up a good point. Great to hear from Robert. Need pressure for that to happen, though. That is true. You do need pressure in order to actually have Stafford deal with that. And obviously, Stafford's one of the best in avoiding blitzes. So we'll see how that's going to be. That's going to look like here moving forward. Looking at some of the comments here before we get started. Robert bringing up a point. I'm a bit worried about the team. Things last week was a Super Bowl, and they don't bring the same intensity this week. Robert, I would actually disagree with that. I think this team has been pretty wired up, and we talked about it a little bit on the Monday show as well, where Case Keenum kind of talked with the offensive players. Obviously, Case Keenum was part of the Minneapolis Miracle, where they came back and beat the Saints in 2018 in the divisional round, and then they got blown out the next week against the Eagles in NFC Championship. And I think the Bears are very adamant about that week by week mentality. I know it's been cliche this whole season, talking about 1-0 and that kind of stuff, but it seems like this team has really embraced that. And I actually am not concerned at all about there being a hangover or anything like that. Like, listen, does that mean that they'll be able to stop Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and all their tight ends and their running backs? I don't know if that's going to be a factor, but I'm actually not concerned at all about there being like a hangover with this team. This team very clearly at the beginning of the week was like, that was fun and all, but we need to move on pretty quickly here because they know that they're going against a really tough Rams team.
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. But if we had seen signs of that earlier at any point this season, then I'd say, yeah, look on, here we go again. But we haven't, because we've targeted many games throughout the season where we thought, okay, coming off this emotional last-second win, now they got this team. We talked about that several times, at least during the regular season, and it didn't happen. The problem is they just come out flat offensively, and then they got to rally again in the fourth quarter, which they usually did. So if it had been a concern at any point this season, I'd be worried about that, because I get it. Like, wow, the season has been made. I mean, that's almost the mentality, whether you're proud of it or not, of like, wow, we beat the Packers, won a playoff game, we can lose Sunday, and you're still going to have positive memories about the 2025 Bears. But on the other side, it's like, you're here. Next season could look totally different, even for a lot of different reasons, as we know as sports fans. So you're here, you're an underdog, but you know what? You have a chance. And we say, there's a reason why the cliche is, any given Sunday. And that's the case here. So who knows? Let's have a good football game, I think, is what we want first and foremost Sunday night, and not a blowout, unless it's the Bears doing the blowing out.
Yeah.
And I think that's first and foremost.
Yeah, I don't think you'll get any NFL player be like looking past or like being like, oh, we'll be happy with the loss, obviously. But I even think a lot of fans are kind of coming around to, I just from the sense that I'm getting from talking to people, Joe, obviously you chime in here, but I'm getting the sense that more and more people are kind of recognizing that obviously this doesn't happen every year. And I think that you can make the argument that you got to make the most of the opportunities that you get. Next year, your quarterback cannot be playing all 17 games. Next year, your offensive line won't be near 95% health and playing most of the snaps, right? Like stuff happens. You saw what happened to Green Bay this year. Micah Parsons goes down. They go from a Super Bowl contender to being the 7th seed, and they get, lose in dramatic fashion in week 1. I know a lot of people like to make the Commanders comparison. I think the Commanders comparison is a little bit different, just mostly because obviously Jaden Daniels got injured, but I don't think the Commanders made the right moves over the offseason to boost their team. Like they went for a bunch of 30-year-olds here instead of focusing on the draft and, getting some younger talent in there. And obviously maybe Ryan Poles will focus more on that as he tries to supplement this team for next year. But I get the sense that I think a lot of Bears fans after Sunday's game it'll sting and that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of Bears fans are also of the mindset of like, yeah, we got house money next year is like we could win. But I think a lot of Bears fans are also kind of like, we need to win this year because, next year isn't really guaranteed.
Well, it'll be hard probably to match the intensity, the fans. I hope the fans can bring it again Sunday night because, I mean, last Sunday, that was just, or Saturday, was just crazy with the Packers of all teams. Can the fans duplicate what they did last week? We'll see. Let's hope, right? Because again, with this, when you go into a football game, clearly as the underdog, you're going to need all those little, I don't know if they're necessarily intangibles, but any advantage you think you might have, you really got to ramp it up then. I mean, you got to take advantage of it, if I'm making any sense. The home crowd, the weather, anything. So the home crowd is important. The Bears, I think, said that to a man, basically, after last week's playoff game against the Packers. And how about Montez Sweat saying, like, that's the most fun atmosphere he's ever been a part of? I know he hasn't always played for great football teams, even with Washington. But still, it's like, let's have that again. You have the game Sunday night. So have fun. I hope the fans go nuts. I hope they show more. There's always going to be the nut who's got the shirt off, right? And that guy's going to get on TV. More of that.
And that nut's going to have hypothermia the next day.
And he won't care, though. He's a Chicago guy, probably. It'll be that guy.
Chicago tough.
Chicago tough. Have fun, be loud, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, there's going to be a lot to kind of look forward to here. Obviously, Jim Corneliuson is going to be doing the national anthem. The Bears actually have a halftime show. They actually got Chase Rice to do the halftime show, which I don't know if people are country music fans or not, but obviously he's a really well-known country music singer, obviously former high school and college roommate and teammate with Ben Johnson. Obviously, I'm sure many people have seen the Good, Better, Best Chance and talking about that and Chase Rice being involved. Shout out to Kevin Fishbane at The Athletic for writing that story and getting that connection with Chase Rice. But yeah, I think that crowd is going to be juiced up. I don't know if it'll match Saturday night just based on how crazy Saturday night's game was, but Sunday night feels like that should be a pretty juiced up crowd. I don't know how you couldn't be. It's the most important Bears game in 15 years at this point. You got a chance to go to the NFC Championship game. You are hosting a Rams team that, yes, is very talented, and you're the underdog. Everyone loves the underdog. So I want to hit on this question real quick here before we get, and this will lead us into our matchups here. Robert asks, is this team the best team we've played all season? Joe, personally, I would say yes. I think, all due respect to San Francisco, I've seen some people say that San Francisco's better. I think LA's got a better defense. That pass rush is so talented, whether it's Kobe or whether it's Jared Verse or different kind of guys. The secondary there are weak spots there, and we'll get into that matchup. But this offense is potent. They've got two sets of, obviously they got the wide receiver duo. They've got the tight end duo. They got the running back duo. They got the quarterback who's got experience. They got a good offensive line. I think that this is definitely the best team that they've played all season.
Yes. And you got Sean McVay. And of all the young guns, the brilliant offensive minds out there with Kyle Shanahan, McVay, and Ben, and there's a few others. I mean, Sean McVay is still like number one on that list, right? He's the guy. But yeah, you look statistically, you look at their stats, they almost look like career stats for some of these guys. I mean, it's scary looking. I mean, just for an example, Puka Nacua, who had 1,700 plus receiving yards this year, that was 1,000 more than the Bears' top receiving Colston Loveland. 1,000. Same one
and
season.
It's not like he's hogging the ball. Like Devontae Adams Devontae Adams had like 750 receiving yards. Other guys, like, it's not like the offense is only Puka Nacua. That's not the thing.
No, that's it. And they run the ball. And we talk about the Bears, with Swift and Monungai, and then you look what they've done, with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. It's like they're just as good. I mean, they don't have a weakness, and really at every positional, every category there, anything you want to look at, run game, pass game, quarterback, offensive coordinator, head coach, the Rams have the edge. That said, it means squat comes Sunday, right? You have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to shock the world, and that's what it would be if they beat this team, because there's still haters on the Bears nationally, locally, think that they're a fluke. So, and if they find a way to somehow to win Sunday, there'll still be haters. There's always excuse making, right? Oh, if they would have played on a 60-degree day, it would have been different. Or this play. So who knows no one knows what's going to happen Sunday. No one. Experts, non-experts, your neighbor, no one knows. But you have a chance. You have a chance Sunday, and you're here. I mean, may as well take advantage of it. What else are you doing? Go win a football game. You have an opportunity. And for the guys who have lost a lot, I bet that is not lost, no pun intended, on them, that you have an opportunity come Sunday.
All right. Well, we might not know what's going on, but we'll try to do our best. So we'll do our preview here. We'll try to tell you what's going to happen here in our preview here. Every game we like to do our different previews, key matchups, and that kind of stuff. So Joe, I'll have you start off here. What is the key matchup that you'll be watching for on Sunday night?
Well, I love watching Puka Nacua play football, and remember he didn't get drafted to the 5th round on a BYU 2023. I think that draft was. And then he started off great. And I think he was second team all pro that year as a rookie. I remember watching him the first time play football. I'm like, how did this, I don't know what the reports were on him coming out, but like, how did this guy drop to the 5th round? Great route runner. He runs like almost mean. Like he's ticked off for some reason, which I love. He's just a load. So I just want to see him play football and get because I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't watch the Rams play a lot of football this year. Probably you either, because you're watching the Bears, you're covering the Bears. But I want to see how they defend him, what they can do, if anything, to get him off his game a little bit. But I'm just gonna, when you're watching on television, you can't necessarily you can't follow the guy all over the field because the cameras are going to follow the ball, obviously. But I want to see him, and I want to see how the Bears defend him. And you're looking at really, even last year. I mean, last year he was hurt, I think, a lot. But point being, you're seeing one of the best wide receivers in the game, and maybe he was statistically anyway the best wide receiver in football this season.
I mean, you just think of the word technician, right? When you watch him and Devontae Adams, right? Like the route running is so precise and so pristine, and that makes it like we're talking to some of the defenders from the Bears this week. How do you stop them? It's hard because you don't know what route they're going to run. They make a lot of what the Bears do with their guys. Obviously, Sean McVay does with their guys. Like Sean McVay does a lot of. You might think that this, that they're going to run this route, but it's too similar to this route, and they're going to do this, and they break off here really quickly on a skinny post, or whether a go route or anything like that. And I think that that's going to be really interesting to see. Just how do the Bears defend this? And I am interested to see I think, listen, the last time we had both C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Kyler Gordon on the field together was that Philly game. And that Philly game, you saw a bunch of dime. And I wonder if that's what Dennis Allen does a lot on third down, because listen, like it's going to be hard, because I think you need to create any sort of pressure like you did in the second half against like you did against the Packers, but I know, listen, Matthew Stafford is good against the blitz, but I do think that you need to create any sort of pressure, whether that's sending Kyler Gordon on the blitz, whether that's sending C.J. Gardner-Johnson on the blitz, whether that's disguising Brisker and having to send him on the blitz, because you need to do something, because it'll be really interesting to see how they kind of approach this. I know, obviously, the Bears have gotten beaten a lot on man-to-man. I think you're going to see a lot of rotations. I think that Dennis Allen is going to take he's going to use his full group. I think what you saw in the second half there, where he was rotating in Tyreek Stevenson for Jalen Johnson, he was rotating, Kyler Gordon, and I know Nick McLeod hasn't practiced this week, but obviously you would get that with C.J. Gardner-Johnson back in the mix. I'm really interested to see how Dennis Allen approaches this, because if you let Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams pick up those chunk yards, 7-yard passes here, 15-yard passes here, it's not going to work. It's going to be bad. I know, obviously, this team is a really good, red zone defense, but I would be really interested to see, how Dennis Allen is going to approach this. I mean, what would you do? Would you send a lot of dime? Would you send more pass? Like at this point, we know what the Bears pass rush is, but you got to affect Matthew Stafford somehow, because if he's going to have time to just sit in the pocket and wait for Nacua or Devontae Adams or the tight ends that they have, like, they're just going to feast on this defense.
Yeah, I think a lot will depend on just situations in the game. And are you trailing early? Are you trailing 14-0 in the first quarter all of a sudden? Whatever you're doing, change it up. You're going to have to get some pressure, but I shouldn't be fooled by this. But the Bears did get pressure last week with 4. Without blitzing. I'd be afraid just to blitz this guy. He's seen everything. You're not going to fool him. I just hope, everything should be just because of the weather. It should be a little slower moving for everybody Sunday night. And I don't know. It'd be nice just to have guys just play better. Maybe this is your opportunity to have your best game of the season, in particular the guys up front. Find a way, but I'd be wary of blitzing him too much, because you could be asking for trouble here. But it's like any quarterback in the league; they're less effective when they get pressure. So you got to find a way to get. Hopefully, Montez Sweat can play like he did again last week. Austin Booker, just a little more of that every week. Again, we've seen like 1 or 2 plays from him, which helps. So that's what they're going to need come Sunday night.
CJ bringing up an interesting point. I personally would like to see Tyreek on Adams all game. Physical corners give him grief. I would agree with that. I think that Tyreek has kind of proven that he can be disruptive. Obviously, he kind of forced that fumble against Christian Watson when he did come into the game by being aggressive and kind of going toward the ball. Listen, I think everyone is going to be available for this game, and I think you're going to see a lot of different rotations. And I think Dennis Allen is going to try to confuse Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay by sending a bunch of different guys. That is where Dennis Allen has exceeded with the hand that he's been dealt for most of the season. He has done a really good job of sending different looks on third down and confusing opposing quarterbacks and confusing opposing offensive coordinators. Now, you're going against probably the best offensive coordinator in the league and the eventual, I would assume, MVP of the league. So obviously you're not going, with all due respect, to against Spencer Rattler or, those types of guys here. But I do think that it'll be really interesting to see. And I do think that, listen, you're just going to have to switch around a lot, because Kyler Gordon isn't 100%. Jalen Johnson isn't 100%. You're going to be switching guys in. You're going to be moving guys around. And you just got to affect the pass as much as you can, because I don't think it's crazy groundbreaking for me to say that if you don't get any pressure, and if you're letting Matthew Stafford sit comfortably and you're letting guys run their routes, it's going to be a very long day or I guess I should say night on Sunday night.
Yeah.
All right, my main matchup, and I'm tempted to just stop the live stream right now and insert what I've been saying the last couple of weeks, but it's the Bears versus themselves, and what I mean by that is the Bears got to get off to a quicker start here, and I don't know. We've been asking them, how do you do what Caleb Williams does in the fourth quarter in the first three quarters, and obviously, I think if they knew, they would be doing it, obviously. But I do think that that's just going to be the key here. I've said this before, but I really believe this. If you fall behind 14-0 or 21-3 to this Rams team, you're not coming back. Like, this Rams team is much more disciplined, is much more talented, and, not to take a shot, but I think much more well coached than previous teams that you've gone against who have given up these leads. Like, this Rams team is elite, and you just got to get off to a good start, whether that's finding your running game again. Obviously, the running game has had two of its worst performances in the last couple of the weeks, whether that's setting that and owning the time of possession, whether that is going for explosive plays early. We need to see this Bears offense start out stronger, and at this point it just seems to be like a Bears versus themselves thing, whether that's just execution and just taking care of business. Because, yes, obviously the defenses have done a good job, and I think Caleb and Ben Johnson have done a good job of adjusting to whatever they've seen at halftime. But you got to do that right away, because I just don't see a way that this game could possibly replicate what's happened in the last few times, just based on how talented this Rams defense is. Even if, and listen, there are opportunities for them to do this. The secondary is kind of the flaw of this team for how talented the pass rush is. Jared Verse is going to be really good going against, Theo Benedict. You're going to get a lot of good matchups there on that defensive and offensive line. So it'll be up to Caleb to get the ball out quickly, or for the Bears to run the ball in order to kind of keep these drives moving here in the first, second, and third quarters.
Yeah, maybe they can just have Caleb take a nap before the game and then wake him up and say, hey, it's the fourth quarter. Go win the football game, when it's really only the first quarter. Something just to get him going early and getting that fourth quarter mindset early. But this also might be a game where they tell Torrey Taylor to stay home, because it's going to be a 4-down territory, I think, a lot, no matter where they are on the football field. Because almost like the Green Bay game, where that's just my sense in the first half, where it was almost like, we got to keep scoring. We got to go for it, because they're going to score as soon as they get the ball back, Green Bay, and getting that mindset. So we'll see early. I don't think they're going to go for it. If it's 4th and 4 from their own 30 on the first drive of the game, and it's 0-0. I don't think they're going to go for it. But you're going to see a lot of that, because that offense, it stinks for them, but they almost have to have, it's like, we have to score on every drive. I heard a few years ago, this is, they were talking about Patrick Mahomes, and they were saying, how good he is. Like Caleb has shown this gene early in his career. And they said, because when Mahomes was in college at A&M, their defense stunk, and they always were losing, and they always had to come back. So it was almost this mindset for 4 quarters that we have to score, because the other team's going to score as soon as they get it. So we have to score. It was almost like this desperation for 4 quarters. And Mahomes then comes in the NFL, and he's used to this, So it's almost like that. So maybe it's good long-term for the Bears to be in this mindset, but get in that mindset early. And I was thinking about, hey, run the football, keep the Rams off the field. But man, if you're kind of like you see with bad football teams, when you're losing by a lot early, you really can't just say, well, let's just run the football and slow things down. No, because you're down, you got to score, you got to go. Clock is ticking, and before you know it, it's halftime, and you're down 3 touchdowns. So they run the football well too. That's another thing with the Rams. Like, it's not just like they're Stafford and his receiving crew. They run the ball effectively, so they can beat you up anyway they want. And the Bears, the pressure is on the offense. Sorry, guys, to score and sustain drives.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do it. And for me personally, I would, all right, listen. the Browns defense, which is good, is not obviously the same as the Rams defense. I know Rick is chiming in here. He's saying, have you not seen the defensive stat the last 7 games? Not the same defense as it was week 1 through 12. I would agree with that. Sure, it's not, but it's still a very talented defense and one of the better ones that this offense is going to be going against. And I think, I think you just need, I think Ben kind of needs to go back into the game plan that we saw against the Browns, where we went into that game being like, they're going to run the ball. It's like 5 degrees outside, like just run the ball and get out of it. And what Caleb threw for like, I think it was like 290 yards or something like that and a bunch of touchdowns. I would not be surprised if the Bears try to do that offensively. Just get the pass going, and that really opens up your run game, because I don't know what's different. I don't know whether it's just, the offensive line is tired because they've been playing every single week since week 5. And I know that these are professional athletes and they get the best care and all that kind of stuff. But guys, they've been going for like 12 straight weeks, 13 straight weeks. Like that wears on you after a while. So I don't know whether that's a factor, whether it's just that the Packers were able to scheme them better up because they played them a third time. But I just really think you need to get that quick offensive start going. And I am curious, Joe, how confident are you in this offensive line? Just based on, like, last week, it was a fine performance, but I don't think, like, the run game wasn't great. And part of that was because there weren't a lot of open lanes and that sort of stuff. In the Detroit game, talking with Dan Rochar the other day, he said we can just like kind of throw away that Detroit game, but that obviously wasn't a good performance. How confident are you in this offensive line being able to not only stop Jared Verse and their elite pass rushers, but also just to create any sort of lanes like they did against Philadelphia and earlier in the year?
No, I think they've just haven't committed to the run the last several weeks here. And by the way, Rick is right. I mean, the Rams defense, this is not the Denver defense or that Texans defense. I mean, this is a defense you can score against. Again, we'll get to our score predictions, but I don't think anyone's, you or I are going to predict, a 12-11 final or anything like that come Sunday, unless the weather's just so lousy. Everyone just wants to play a game and get out of there. Where you're not as focused as you normally would be in normal conditions weather-wise. So, but no, I think you can pass against this Rams defense, certainly over the middle. They've shown they're vulnerable there, kind of like the Bears. And I think you can run on them. I think, again, I always look at, not only total rushing yards, that's obviously probably the biggest stat, but what are you gaining per carry? And if you look at even these games where the Bears haven't run the ball, where Swift hasn't run for 100 or Monungai, where we're piling up yards, they're still running at their average per carry, which is like for both guys about 5 yards a carry this year. So I think they can, and just commit to it more. I mean, I don't want to second guess every play, because you can do that every game. You can they should have done this on this play. Why are they passing? Why are they running here? They should have passed. They should have run here. I mean, we can do that every game, even when your team is winning football games. But I would just like to see them commit to the run more, because I think they can. And I think sometimes they just get away from it. And then you see the incompletion, then the incompletion. Now it's 3rd and 10. And then it's 3rd and long. And then you're just asking for trouble, because you just can't. It's like trying to, banking on making a 3-foot putt every time. You're not going to do it. You're going to miss. And that happens. So, yeah, run the football more. I just hope they're in a position, not again, when you're down 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, then it gets tough to commit to that.
Yeah, it'll be like, I think, the offense has to stay on the field. That's been a big bugaboo for this team the last, month or something like that. Like, I understand, like, people, like, it's a 3-phase game, all the cliches and all that kind of stuff. I understand that the defense needs to get stops too, but we know what this Bears defense is at this point. So it's on the offense to lead these long drives. They can't go pick up a yard on first down, or, only get 2 yards on second down, and then they've got 3rd and long, and then they're disappointed when they have to pass falls incomplete, and then you have to punt, right? Like, at some point you got to do what you did earlier in the season, whether that's, teams have kind of caught on to all the different motion that Ben does, but I think that's hard to catch up to. Obviously, it's all eye candy, sure, but I think that's also hard to catch up on. And a team like, again, I know McVay's offense and Ben Johnson's offense aren't the same offense, but they're pretty similar. So I do wonder whether that gives the Rams a little bit of an advantage. Like could potentially give the Bears defense an advantage about being like, oh, this is kind of familiar. We know not to look for this or not to look for that this is all just eye candy. So yeah, that'll be a really interesting to see how much that kind of plays a factor on Sunday night. All right, Joe, what is a surprise prediction that you have for Sunday night's game?
Bears win. No, I Michael, I'm like 0 for 17 this year on the surprise prediction. The surprise prediction is the Bears defense is going to come up with a turnover. I don't know, maybe because I think it's the weather is going to factor. I keep bringing up the weather, and I probably will before this podcast ends. But Stafford, again, he doesn't turn the ball over a lot either. He did have the 3-pick game against Atlanta late in the season. He can turn it over. And at 30, he's almost 30. I think he'll be 38. I looked it up next month. Regardless, late 30s. Who moves as well as they did when they were in their early 20s? So I don't think he moves as well. He's a surgeon back there. We know that. But I think if you could maybe get him moving a little bit, maybe he drops the football, maybe he throws an interception. And the Rams, Michael, for all this weather talk and stuff, the reality is, and look, Matthew Stafford, 12 years in Detroit, it's not like he doesn't know what cold weather is. He played at Lambeau and Soldier Field twice a year with his 12 years with the Lions. So, but they have not played in a cold weather game this season. Every game is at nice weather, or they're in a dome, which is nice weather in a dome. So that's what you got to hope for, right? Because if they're playing in LA, I give the Bears pretty much like zero chance of winning this football game. But it'll be different. It'll look different. I don't know if it's going to look like it was 40 years ago when the Bears beat the snot on a Dieter Brock 10 years before you were born. And stifled the great Eric Dickerson, but it should be just good. I hate the phrase "bear weather," but it just should be a fun environment. Football in the cold, and maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough for Matthew Stafford not to have the game which he pretty much has had every week this season, which is great. So. That's what I'm kind of hoping happens. It slows everything down a little bit, and because the Rams are just, again, across the board, certainly offensively, they're better than the Bears.
Yeah, getting back to your original point, yeah, I agree. I think that the turnovers are going to be the key. I mean, listen, the Bears win games when they force multiple turnovers, but it's a little inconsistent when they only force one. Obviously, the last time they forced multiple turnovers was 3 against the Browns. Obviously, they won that game. They forced 1 turnover against the Packers in their first comeback win. Obviously, they won, but then they had 1 each against the 49ers and the Lions, and obviously lost those 2 games. So I would agree. I think that the turnovers are going to be really important there. Matthew, like you said, Stafford had 3 against the Falcons on that Monday night game where they blew that game. But he's been pretty consistent in not turning the ball over. So turnovers are going to be key, and getting after taking advantage of those mistakes, whether it's, there were 3 I think there were 3 forced fumbles on against the Packers that the Bears didn't jump on. You got to take advantage of those opportunities. They were doing it for most of the season. So, I like that pick. I think that'll be really important to watch. My surprise prediction is that Devin Duvernay returns a kickoff or a punt for a touchdown.
I like that.
This Rams special teams is not great. Obviously, special teams takes a nosedive a little bit. When I think of all the things that are affected the most because of the weather, I think special teams is affected the most because of the weather. You obviously saw it with the field goal attempts last week from the Packers. We've seen it with other things. I don't think it's supposed to be like blusterly or anything like that with the winds, but it'll still the wind is still like I know the Rams kicker, they're on their second kicker, and I know he kicked in Missouri and all that kind of stuff, and it gets cold in Missouri, but kicking at Soldier Field is just a different animal. And I think Devin Duvernay has come really close to breaking through for a couple of them. He's over these last couple of games, he's had a nice kickoff returns here or there. I think this is one where he finally breaks through because the Rams special teams is not good. And this really feels like one, we didn't talk about this last week, but the Bears started the game with trying to maybe pull off a handoff on the kickoff. And they were almost trying to do a trick play. Obviously they didn't go for it. And I think Blackwell Duvernay ended up holding on to the ball. But my surprise prediction is whether it's, Rick is bringing up whether it's a fake or something like that. Rick saying my surprise prediction is Hightower calls his first fake punt ever, which is another special teams thing. But I think that Devin Duvernay has a kick return in him in this game.
That'd be wonderful. He hasn't had one this season, but to me, the most important thing with return is not to make mistakes and not fumble it away or muff a kickoff, muff a punt, because that can be deadly, especially if you're playing a team like the Rams with that offense. So I'm just fine with him catching the football and getting his 10 yards on a punt return or 20 yards on a kickoff return. But that would be fantastic. I think he's had a season. Again, he's had a real good season. It'd be nice to see it to get the ultimate reward here, scoring a touchdown. So I like that pick, Michael.
All right, some other surprise predictions. CJ kind of going grim here. Stafford doesn't make it through the game. Okay. We obviously talked about Rick's surprise prediction. But yeah, my other surprise prediction, which I didn't really want to waste the bell, just mention it here. I think the weather thing is going to be overblown and you end up with a high scoring game. I don't like these
no
are
fun there.
These are professional athletes here. I think the Bears are used to it. I'm not trying to dismiss it completely. Listen, as someone, like, obviously we've all done the thing where it's like, oh, like you spend a whole winter and then like you get that February day where it's like 50 degrees and sunny and you act like everyone's in shorts. Everyone's like acting like it's 90 degrees outside. Like everyone's out partying in the streets. Like obviously we've all experienced that where you do that and then like you experience a whole summer of like obviously heat. And then like the first like 60 or 55 degree day, you're like, everyone's wearing their like winter coats and acting like it's super cold. Like, I'm not trying to dismiss, like your body is affected by that. Like, I understand it's 80 degrees in California all week in Los Angeles. It's sunny every day. And then you come here and it's like 20 degrees. Like, I'm not trying to dismiss that at all. Like, I think that'll be a factor. I just don't think it's enough to be like, stop Puka Nacua from being an elite wide receiver or stop Jared Verse from, running his routes. Maybe he's more cold. Maybe in the third quarter that affects them a little bit more. But I think that this whole cold storyline has kind of been overblown for most of the week. And I don't think it won't be the difference in the game. And I can't wait for them to prove me wrong on Sunday.
Well, I think even if you ask pro players, and I know you have in the locker room, I'm sure the weather does matter. I mean,
sure.
I mean, it's different if you're playing in 40 degrees. Ooh, that's cold. That is cold, right? If you wear a little jacket, if it's 40, but if it's going to be this cold, 10, 15 degrees at kickoff, whatever the case may be, that's cold. And then the big thing is the winds. The winds affect everything. It affects throwing the ball. It affects field goal attempts, extra points, catching the ball if you're a kick or punt returner. So that stuff does matter. And I mean, guys, again, I mean, it's like when I cover a high school baseball game, Michael, and it's so freaking cold. I just can't wait to get out of there. Like, no offense to the teams I'm watching. Hope they play well and there's something fun to write about. But I just want to go home. As soon as I get there, I want to go home because I want to get out of this weather. And I think that does. I don't care if you're a pro athlete or you're however, if you're not if you're not an athlete at all, it just takes your mind off of what you should be thinking about. And so it does affect everybody. And again, it's not like all the Bears players grew up in suburban. They're not all cold Comet. They grew up in Arlington Heights and Barrington, and they know what it's like, and they love playing in this weather. No one does. But if you're looking for equalizers, again, that's my thing. I hope, and maybe it's not. Maybe it'll just be cold, but it won't be windy. The footing will be good. All that stuff matters. But if it's just cold, no wind, footing is good, maybe it's not so much. But I'm just looking for if weather gives any team any advantage, it should be the worst team, right? So that's that's what I'll go on. But if it's like, it's actually not that bad as we thought, it's just a little cold and they're big boys. But, your body just doesn't move the same. I think regardless of your age and what you do for a living.
Yeah, and we'll obviously we'll see whether the Rams bench somehow doesn't like it did against the Packers. Somehow the bench doesn't warm up like it did earlier. Then we'll see if somehow the heaters don't work miraculously on the Rams bench, but somehow it worked on the Bears bench. We'll see if any of that stuff pops up again like it did earlier in the year. All right, Joe, most valuable Bear. Obviously. I stopped keeping track. I don't even remember who we did last week, but
I think I beat you the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, sure.
But Jackson last week, he had a great game.
Who's your most valuable Bear for this game on Sunday?
Well, I always get this wrong. I thought Swift would have a 100-yard game last week. He didn't. But if you're going to win, your offense has to play big. It's too hard to pick like who will come up with a potential interception or something like that. I'm just going to go with Colston Loveland. Boy, this is really coming together, him and Caleb. And Caleb is just looking for him. I think that's going to continue. I trust that combination 100%. So I think he's going to feed Loveland and feed him. And especially with Rome still not at 100%. Because that's fun to talk nationally too and locally about this connection Colston and Caleb have having them. And part of me is like, I wonder what Rome thinks about this. Like, hey, I thought I was the go-to man. I thought we were going to be the guys, but he's just not 100% yet. So maybe that'll have to wait till next year. And again, we'll talk about it in the off season, whatever. But again, there's still a lot of receptions to be made. There's only one football, but next year, I expect everyone's numbers to be heightened with receptions and yards, everything. Because I think you're going to see a better offense, but that's for another day. But I'm going to go with Colston Loveland. I just think he's emerging. I think people are starting to recognize it now. Been a lot of talk about, how we're going back to the last year in the draft and people didn't know that's all been, about Loveland and the Bears stretch here. That's been getting a lot of play this week too, because now you're seeing the emergence of, I think, a future star in the city in Colston Loveland.
Yeah, I mean, he's just Caleb's go-to player right now, whether it's third down, fourth down, like he's just the go-to guy. And we've talked about it for weeks. I wrote about it probably like 3 weeks ago at this point, but Loveland is just key in those situations. He's able to put himself in those positions to be there for Caleb when he needs them to be, and he makes the catch most of the time. I know that obviously maybe he's had a couple drops here, but a majority of the time, I'd say 80 or 85% of the time, he makes those catches, and that's just something that's hard to defend. Like we've talked ad nauseum about the matchup problems that Colston Loveland creates, but Joe, you mentioned Rowe might not be. Obviously, I know you're being facetious. Obviously, Rowe might not be happy about the looks, but listen, like if more people have to focus on Colston, less people have to focus on Rome, and that makes things even easier for him and creates a lot more opportunities. So I think it's one of those situations where everybody feasts. It's not like one guy feasts, and I think that'll be so I like that pick a lot. I think Colston's obviously going to be a major factor in this game. I'm tempted to go with DeAndre Swift here, mostly because where's it been the last few weeks? And he's been a consistent guy for us for most of the season when it comes to picking most valuable Bear. On the defense, I'm not confident enough to pick anyone on the defense at this point. Would be happy for them to prove me wrong, but I think if the Bears win this game, it's because of an offensive strong performance. And I will go with DeAndre Swift. I think Rome is still dealing with a bunch of injuries. He'll make a bunch of catches here and there. I think DJ Moore will be critical. Luther Burden will be good as well. But I think you really win this game by getting the run game going. So I'll go with DeAndre Swift. I think there have been a lot of opportunities where we've chosen him and he's come through. So I think I'll go with that one. But obviously, if I had the first pick, I probably would have gone with Colston.
Okay. DeAndre Swift, even in the games where he hasn't rushed for 100 yards, he's been good every game to me, really, since, those first couple of games, the stinkers, the whole team had to get out of their system and correct some things. But I really like him as a football player. I keep thinking Are they? Will they look for a running back in the draft at any point next? This in a couple months here. I don't know, but he just does so many good things. He is, again, he's not, because there's so many dang good running backs in this league. He's not a Pro Bowl All Pro guy, but boy, he's just right below that. I think he's just been really good. He seems like when they need a big catch and they throw a swing to him or something, a swing pass to him, he delivers. And with his shiftiness, which we've always seen with him since he's been in the league, he makes it happen somehow. So DeAndre Swift is never a bad pick to me.
Robert is going with come on Loveland, no doubt. CJ choosing Jaquan Brisker gets him an interception. And then Rick saying that Joe cursed Loveland. His most valuable bear is going to be the third linebacker, which I assume is DeMarco Jackson.
Oh, you're right.
All right, Joe. Predictions 5:30 on NBC/Peacock. The Bears are hosting the Los Angeles Rams in their third overall matchup. Obviously, the last matchup between these two teams was, I forget the final score, but obviously it was part of their Super Bowl run. And then the Rams obviously won that first matchup, I think, in the 60s. So obviously these two franchises have been around for a long time, only played each other 3 times. What is your prediction for Sunday night?
Well, I do think the Rams will exact revenge here from the loss 40 years ago. Where's Wilbur Marshall? Can't they bring Wilbur Marshall out to the game and just have him pose at the middle of the field with the snow flurries coming down? Oh, my God, I might have tears in my eyes because you've seen the clip, Michael, I know, with Wilbur picking up the fumble, securing the win after, again, seems like not long ago. But I think the Rams win. Just because logically, I mean, on paper, they're the better football team. They're the better football team. And they got dang Sean McVay, who's just brilliant. But this is the crazy season that it's been. I mean, wouldn't it just, if the Bears somehow win this game, we'll be excited, we'll be laughing because, again, this shouldn't happen. But this is just one of those strange, this is not a typical, I don't even know, like the Chiefs during their dominance here the last several years, if they had a season weird like this, has any team had a season like this with as many fourth quarter comebacks like this where they look terrible in one half and then brilliant in the fourth quarter? I don't know. So I don't know what to expect. That's really the fun part about it, because as much as we think we know the Bears, we really don't. We don't know what to expect. Awfulness or greatness on any given series in a way. So I'll take the Rams because that's just the smart pick. I don't think it's going to be 12-11. I think there'll be plenty of offense. I don't think, as was it Alex Smith on ESPN said this week that he thinks the Rams will drop 50 on them. I don't think that's going to happen because of the dang weather, Michael. But I think the Rams will win. I'll say 36-30.
I've been hemming and hawing about this all week just because, listen, you look at the paper. I don't know how you create a scenario where this Bears team wins this game, right? Like, you look at the paper, the offense is just pristine. Like, it's so well run. It's so well organized. Everyone has been in it for a while. I know Devontae Adams, obviously, in this first year with the Rams, but he's adopted the whole Rams mentality perfectly. Like, they just have so many weapons on offense. And you're just like, how is this defense going to create any stops here? And again, the offense for the Bears, it's been like, I feel like I keep saying this all the time, but they can't keep getting away with this, right? It's like the Scooby-Doo thing. Like, how are they going to keep doing this? You can't not play for 3 quarters offensively and then all of a sudden show up and just win all the time. But they still somehow end up doing it. And it's just one of those scenarios where it's just kind of like, at some point, it's not a fluke, right? They've done this 7 times. They've come back to win 7 times. And it just doesn't feel like it's just a thing that they keep on doing and are going to keep getting away with it. And obviously, we haven't talked much about it, but the Rams haven't looked like the juggernaut that they were earlier in the season in recent games too. They needed a last play to beat the Panthers last week in the wild card game. They lost to a Falcons team that was eliminated from the playoffs. when the Rams were trying to get the number 1 seed. So like I don't think, like, it's just hard. And I know I've been hemming and hawing, and I'm kind of doing that right now because I still don't truly know what to say about what the prediction is going to be. I think at the end of the day, the Rams win this game 24-20. I think the Bears have an opportunity there at the end to win the game and just come and play short, like they did against the 49ers, like they did against the Packers the first time. But as you can tell in my prediction, I'm not confident in it. I can see this being a game where the Rams just dominate and control, and they just kind of do their thing for most of the game, and it's not a game. Or I can see the Bears somehow pulling off a comeback, or also just kind of pulling an unexpected game and winning this one. So I'm going to go with my head here, and I'm just going to go with, I think the Rams are just the better team. They're the Super Bowl contender, and for all the heroic comebacks the Bears have given us this season, there's still flaws to this team that I think that they just can't overcome against a really good team.
So if they hold them to 24 points, to me, that's going to be like, that's almost a victory in itself. Not that there are any moral victories, as we know. But
Sure.
So you think they can hold them to 24? I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think for how much I downplayed the weather, I do think that there's going to be a lot of running the ball, and I think that the possessions are going to be much more valuable than they would be in another game. I don't think there's going to be a lot of punting. I think the possessions are going to be long possessions with the run. I think both McVay and Johnson are going to play the possession card. Both guys are analytical guys. Both guys are, they'll look at all the different factors, and I think McVay knows that teams have dominated the time of possession against the Bears and have done fairly well against that. So I think McVay will want to dominate the time of possession, and I think Ben Johnson will try to want to own the time of possession because his team hasn't done that for the past month. So it feels like one of those games where I think both teams will score when they have the ball. I just don't think that these drives are going to move up and down the field that quickly.
Well, one more note from me on McVay. I don't know if you saw the quote. You probably did. Where McVay is talking about what he likes about Ben Johnson's offense. It was this week. It was a long, so well articulated and cerebral answer. I had to read it like 5 times to understand what he meant. This is the language he speaks. McVay. I felt like I was back in college. My head was hurting, like reading a textbook. Like I can't make this hurts my head. But it was such a beautiful, well articulated response by McVay. Look at Google it. You can find it. Sean McVay's thoughts on Ben Johnson's offense. It was just another example of where McVay is. He's at a different level. He's like a college professor at an Ivy League school, the way he speaks about football. So if you're a football nerd geek, you love the X's and O's talk, and you'll love this because it was like, I almost had to print it out and I'd keep it, like study it, because it was just so complex but articulate. And you think football is just a game, me against you, we beat each other up, we play football, we tackle, we throw, we pass. This is football at its highest level, football speak at its highest level. So if you get a chance, look it up. It was quite something. Did you see that quote? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I had to find that quote actually for a story that I'm working on. But yeah, okay. I've had a chance to. I've listened to Sean McVay throughout the years, clips or whatever on SportsCenter. But obviously, since they're playing the Rams, I listen to him talk, and he just seems like a great guy to cover. And he just seems like if I was a Rams fan, I think I would love Sean McVay. I would I think Kyle Shanahan's a great head coach. I think Ben Johnson is proving himself to be a head coach. I don't think you have to do it the way Sean McVay does it, but the rapport that he has, just the way that he approaches everything, like he just for a kid that the Rams hired at 30 years old in 2017, and everyone's like, what the heck are you doing? You're hiring this kid who's never had head coach experience. Like, I don't like the Rams hit it out of the park. They hit 3 grand slams. I don't know however you want to describe it, but Sean McVay just seems like a coach that you want to play for if you're a player, just not only because he's like the kid wonderkind or the wonderkind with the offense and all that kind of stuff, but he just motivates you when you kind of listen to him, and you can clearly tell that he knows what the heck he's talking about. He's so articulate. He describes it so well. It was actually a lot of fun to listen to what Sean McVay had to say, not only about the Bears, but just football in general.
Football,
like he's a guy that you'd want to sit at the bar with on a Saturday night and just talk ball with for like 5 hours and try to pick his brain about anything at that point.
No, and I never sense any arrogance with him either.
No,
it's not like he's like.
No, he'll make some jokes or whatever, but like he's not trying to be a jerk about it. It seems like he's like just a genuine, like good guy.
He could quit coaching football tomorrow and go into TV or whatever he wants to do, and he'd be brilliant. And he's got the looks. He's a handsome dude. This guy, he's really impressive. I mean, really impressive.
All right. Rick wanted to clarify that he was talking about Luther Bird and not DeMarco Jackson. My bad. I saw LB3 and my brain went right to the depth chart, not that. So my bad, Rick. Robert says, let's keep this party going. Come on, Bears.
Yes.
Rick has the Bears winning 24-20. CJ says that the Bears look fatigued. Coming back from being out west, body rhythm, choosing Bears 28-14. That would be a stun. I'm
never know. That's the beauty of this.
I'm sorry. I guess that's true. I'm not trying to downplay CJ, but 28-14. That would have to be a perfect storm. I don't know how that happens.
Well, again, you never want to wish injury on anyone, seriously.
No, obviously.
Right? But maybe Stafford gets hurt. Who's their backup QB? I didn't look it up.
That's actually a good question. I probably should know that heading into this matchup.
Well, I should know it too.
But yeah, obviously, CJ, I love the positivity. Hopefully the Bears give you something to look forward to. But all right, that's everything we got for this week's episode of the podcast. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the live stream. Appreciate it. Make sure you give us a like while you're here and subscribe. That way you know when we're going to be going live. And you get all our latest stuff. If you're listening to us on the podcast, make sure you subscribe and rate us. Always appreciate the support there, and appreciate all the love and support we got from Facebook as well. Appreciate it. So make sure you're following me today and throughout the weekend. I'll be at Soldier Field at Halas Hall. Make sure you're following me at Dwojak94. Joe's at Joe Aguilar 64. We'll have your coverage for the rest of the week. Next week, obviously, we'll see how things kind of go. We'll plan on talking to you folks on Monday. We'll see whether it's locker room cleanup day or whether it's the Bears keep this thing rolling, and we're looking forward to an NFC championship game. But we'll obviously be around on Monday. We'll see how the schedule kind of looks like, but we'll hope to talk to you guys at some point on Monday. So for Joe and I, thanks so much for joining us on this Friday morning. Hope everyone stays warm. If you're going to the game, layer up. If you're staying home, enjoy responsibly. Have fun this weekend, and we will talk to you folks down the road.